Good day, children. We move on to the second part of the lesson, Making of a Scientist. Then in the 7th grade, he got a hint of what real science is when he entered a county science fair and lost. It was really a sad feeling to sit there and not get anything while everybody else had won something, Ebright said. His entry was slides of frog tissues which he showed under a microscope. He realized the winners had tried to do real experiments, not simply make a neat display. Already the competitive spirit that drives Richard Ebright was appearing. I knew that for the next year's fair I would have to do a real experiment, he said. The subject I knew most about was the insect work I had been doing in the past several years. So, here we get to see that, Ebright, when he was in the 7th standard, that's when he realizes what real science is, because he lost a county science fair and he was very upset. Okay, county means a region. Okay, so, and he was very upset, and he also felt sad to see every other participant winning something, whereas he did not win anything, because what he did was he had displayed frog tissues slides under a microscope, but he realized that all the winners had actually tried to perform an experiment and not just make some display out of their projects. So he also started developing the competitive spirit inside him, and now he decided that he would make a real project for the next year's fair. And he thought and he realized that he had maximum knowledge about the subject of insects, as he had been studying them for quite some time. So he wrote to Dr. Urquhart for ideas, and back came a stack of suggestions for experiments. Those kept Ebright busy all through high school and led to prize projects in county and international science fairs. For his 8th grade project, Ebright tried to find the cause of a viral disease that kills nearly all monarch caterpillars every few years. Ebright thought the disease might be carried by a beetle. He tried raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles. I didn't get any real results, he said, but I went ahead and showed that I had tried the experiment. This time I won. So here we see that Ebright had written to Dr. Urquhart for ideas, and Dr. Urquhart sent back a lot of ideas for Ebright's next year's project. And so he was busy with all those ideas throughout his high school, and he won many prizes. And in his 8th standard, he tried to find out the cause of a viral disease which killed nearly all monarch caterpillars every few years. So he thought that the disease was transmitted through beetles. So what he did was he started raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles, but it was of no use. But when he showed at the fair that he had tried such an experiment, he won a prize for his project. The next year, his science fair project was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. The theory was that viceroys look like monarchs because monarchs don't taste good to birds. Viceroys, on the other hand, do taste good to birds, so the more they look like monarchs, the less likely they are to become a bird's dinner. Ebright's project was to see whether, in fact, birds would eat monarchs. He found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. It would eat all the monarchs it could get. Ebright said later research by other people showed that viceroys probably do copy the monarch. This project was placed first in the zoology division and third overall in the county science fair. So, for the next year, he tried the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. Viceroy butterflies are a type of butterflies, just like monarch butterflies. And so he put forward a theory that viceroy butterflies, since they look like monarchs, even though the viceroy butterflies look like monarchs, monarchs don't taste as good to birds, and therefore birds are likely to eat viceroy butterflies more. So the more the viceroy looks like the monarch, the less likely it is that the viceroy would be eaten by a bird. So he wanted to show in his project that whether a bird would eat monarchs or not. And he found out that the sterling bird, again a type of bird, would prefer eating a monarch. and later the research showed that viceroys copied monarchs, and this project won him the first place in his zoology department and a third overall position in the county science fair. In his second year in high school, Richard Ebright began the research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. Indirectly, it also led to his new theory on the life of cells. The question he tried to answer was simple. What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa? Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental, Ebright said. But Dr. Urquhart didn't believe it. To find the answer, Ebright and another excellent science student first had to build a device that showed that the spots were producing a hormone necessary for the butterfly's full development. This project won Ebright first place in the county fair and entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. There he won third place for zoology. He also got a chance to work during the summer at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. So, when Richard Ebright was in his second year of high school, he started a research from where he found about an unknown insect hormone, which later helped him in his new theory about life of cells as well. So the question from where the research started was very simple as to what was the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa. And most of the people said that these spots were made for just ornamental or to make it look more decorative. But Dr. Urquhart did not believe in what others said. So to find the answer to this question, Ebright and another excellent science student, they together made a device which proved that these spots produced a hormone which is necessary for the full development of a butterfly from a pupa. So with this, Ebright won the first prize at the county science fair, and he also got an entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. And there he won the third place for zoology. He also got a chance to work at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. Okay, as a high school junior, Richard Ebright continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. That year, his project won first place at the International Science Fair and gave him another chance to work in the Army laboratory during the summer. In his senior year, he went a step further. He grew cells from a monarch's wing in a culture and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. That project won first place for zoology at the International Fair. He spent the summer after graduation doing further work at the Army laboratory and at the laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. The following summer, after his freshman year at Harvard University, Ebright went back to the laboratory of the Department of Agriculture and did more work on the hormone from the gold spots. Using the laboratory's sophisticated instruments, he was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure. A year and a half later, during his junior year, Ebright got the idea for his new theory about cell life. It came while he was looking at X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. He continued his work with monarch pupa as a high school junior, and that led him to win the first prize at the International Science Fair. And after winning the prize, he also got a chance to work at the Army laboratory during summer. And then during his senior year, he tried another experiment in which he grew cells from a monarch's wing in a culture. Okay, and he also showed that the cells would divide and develop into a normal butterfly wing scales, provided that it was treated with hormone from the gold spots. And this research got him the first prize at the International Fair. He spent his summer after graduation doing more research on the subject at the Army laboratory and the laboratory of US Department of Agriculture. Then he worked some more on the hormone which is released from the gold spots during the following summers at the laboratory of the Agriculture Department. He identified the chemical structure of the hormone using the lab's special equipment. And almost after 1.5 years, he got the idea for his new theory, which was about cell life. And this idea came to him when he was looking at the X-ray photos of the chemical structure of the hormone. Okay, when he saw those photos, Ebright didn't shout Eureka or even I have got it. But he believed that along with his findings about insect hormones, the photos gave him the answer to one of biology's puzzles: how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. DNA is a substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. Thus, DNA is the blueprint for life. So, here he says that when he saw the photos, the X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone, he did not get excited about his discovery. So he never shouted Eureka or I have got it. But as soon as he found it, he came to a realization that his years of study on insect hormone had solved one of the puzzles for biology, and it had solved the mystery of how cells read the blueprint of its DNA. He found that as DNA is in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity, therefore it determines the form and function of a cell. Therefore, DNA is the blueprint of life. So, his theory had actually led to the revelation that DNA is the blueprint of life. Ebright and his college roommate James R. Wong worked all that night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules to show how it could happen. Together they later wrote the paper that explained the theory. Surprising, no one knew who knew him. Richard Ebright graduated from Harvard with highest honors, second in his class of 1510. Ebright went on to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. There he began doing experiments to test his theory. If the theory proves correct, it will be a big step towards understanding the processes of life. It might also lead to new ideas for preventing some types of cancer and other diseases. All of this is possible because of Ebright's scientific curiosity. His high school research into the purpose of the spots on a monarch pupa eventually led him to his theory about cell life. Ebright and his roommate, they made drawings and plastic models for the theory which showed how it was possible, and they later wrote a paper which explained the process. And it did not surprise the people who knew him that he graduated from Harvard with highest honors, and he stood second in his class, which had around 1510 students. And he then became a graduate student researcher at the Harvard University or the Harvard Medical School, and he also started doing practical experiments to test his theory. It was expected that if the theory was proved to be correct, then it would be a big step towards understanding the complex system of life, and this would lead to new ideas for preventing certain types of cancer and other diseases. So this showed how his research on the monarch pupa led him to a theory about cell life. Richard Ebright has been interested in science since he first began collecting butterflies, but not so deeply that he hasn't time for other interests. Ebright also became a champion debater and public speaker and a good canoeist and all-around outdoors person. He is also an expert photographer, particularly of nature and scientific exhibits. In high school, Richard Ebright was a straight A student because learning was easy. He turned a lot of his energy towards the debating and model United Nations Club. He also found someone to admire, Richard A. Wehrer, his social studies teacher and advisor to both clubs. Mr. Wehrer was the perfect person for me then. He opened my mind to new ideas, Ebright said. We see that, he had been very keen in science, ever since he had started collecting butterflies, but that did not keep him away from other interests in life. He also had other interests. One is he was a champion debater. Okay, and a debater is somebody who can speak or argue on a particular subject in a very formal manner. He was a great public speaker, and he was also a good canoeist. Canoeist is somebody who is good or skilled in canoeing. Canoe is a type of boat. Okay, so somebody who is good in canoeing, and he was also an all-round outdoor sports person along with an expert photographer. He was good at capturing nature and scientific subjects, and he was a great student, and he always used to score good marks, and he used to focus his extra energy on debates and also on model United Nations clubs, MUN. Okay, and he also used to admire his social studies teacher, who was an advisor to both clubs, which was Mr. Richard A. Vera. Ebright thought that his teacher was the right man, as he was the one who used to open his mind to new ideas. Richard was competitive, Mr. Vera continued, but not in a bad sense, he explained. Richard wasn't interested in winning for winning's sake or winning to get a prize. Rather, he was winning because he wanted to do the best job he could. For the right reasons, he wants to be the best. And that is one of the ingredients in the making of a scientist. Start with a first rate mind, add curiosity, and mix in the will to win for the right reasons. Ebright has these qualities. From the time the book, The Travels of Monarch X, opened the world of science to him, Richard Ebright has never lost his scientific curiosity. So his teacher was much impressed with the fact that how Ebright would give probably an extra 3 to 4 hours of effort at night for the debate research, apart from the time he used to give in his butterfly research and spend time for his other interests. He added that Ebright was very competitive, but not in a bad sense, because Ebright did not win to just get prizes or just for the sake of winning, but he did so because he wanted to be the best at whatever he did, whether he won the competition or not. What he did has to be the best. And this is what makes a good scientist, because a good scientist needs a first-rated mind along with curiosity and an added will to win for the right reasons. Since the time Richard's mother got him the book, The Travels of Monarch X, his curiosity towards science has only grown. So, this is the lesson, making of a scientist. I hope you have understood the lesson. Thank you, children.